All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. So today we have Blood DK. All right, we only have two more tanks to cover. It'll be Blood DK and then Prop Paladin. And then I'm hoping that I can, in the next couple of days, find some people who want to talk about DPS and healer specs so that I can kind of cover some of those differences and some of the changes and some of the things that have been going on for them as well. All right, so first up, let's talk about our stats. All right, obviously, Blood DK has always benefited from pretty much every stat. But we are back to, I should say, we are back to prioritizing haste and mastery. All right. Those are going to be our primary two stats, with crit and verse not being that far behind. Obviously, crit is going to be better than verse, but again, you're not going to be messed up by taking crit over or verse over crit. All right, so our stats are pretty much going to go haste, mastery, and then crit verse. All right, that's pretty much what we're looking for. All right, again, as with every other tank, we're not going to change our gems. We're not going to change our enchants. We're not going to do anything different with that. We're going to stick with what we are working with. All right. Now, let's move into talents. All right. So I don't really think that there was too much change to the talent in and of itself. I think that we got a couple of choice nodes, we got a couple of better options, we got a few reworks. All in all, there's really not a whole lot to talk about with the talents. So first we'll start off with our hero tree. All right, so I did go ahead and drop these two talent nodes in favor of these two up here. I think that's the best option. I think that this is the best option for us to be running as far as our hero tree. Also, as always, I only run Sand Lane. I don't like Deathbringer. I don't run it, so I'm only covering Sand Lane in this video. Hope you guys are cool, but that's just kind of how it falls. All right, so as far as our class tree goes, there's really not a whole lot of change to the way that we're doing things, the way that we're pathing down. We One of the most notable things that we're seeing is we did lose Soul Reaper, so that's no longer a talent for us to choose from. But beyond that, this is pretty much what we're running, what you want to be looking for. Very similar to how it was before. I would say the only difference is, you can drop Subduing Grasp in favor of Will of the Necropolis, or depending on the situation, you can also drop Will of the Necropolis and you can take Subduing Grasp and Unyielding Will. Just kind of depends on what you want to do. I personally would put 1 and 1. That's just me. Again, it's all about how you want to play. All right. Now, let's get into our spec tree. All right, so there's really not a whole lot to talk about when it comes to the spec tree. It's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. Most notably, we did lose Tombstone. It has been replaced by Sanguinary Burst. All right, which is a talent that you can opt into. Added to Gorfian's Grasp, we got our Abomination Limb. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I think Abomination Limb is the move. I think that it is a much better option for us to run over running Gorfian's Grasp. But that's just me. If you got used to the Gorfian's Grasp, or if you just like it more, I don't think there's anything wrong with running that. The most notable thing is, because of the way that our hero tree works, and because of the way that Blood DK is shifting, especially for Sand Lane, is we are running very heavy into keep maximum uptime of Dancing Rune Weapon. So we're going to be taking a lot of talents that really emphasize our Dancing Rune Weapon. So, if it has a benefit, maybe weigh it out, see, what the best option is. Again, I think that talents vary based off of the player skill level, the player tanking ability, and just how comfortable are you with the class. But I think Dancing Rune Weapon is a great way to play around. I think the fact that Sand Lane is shifting into a Dancing Rune Weapon playstyle, I think is great, and I think that it is a very good thing and a very simplifying thing for DK as a whole. Now, the only thing that I'm really going to talk about majorly swapping in the hero tree: consumption. All right, this is probably going to feel very clunky to play around. If you don't like it, and if you don't like I personally am not sold on the idea of having a empowerment ability as a DK. I've said it in other videos. I don't like casting as a tank. I should not be a caster tank. That's not a thing. So empowerment, I kind of see it the same way. In the event that you don't like consumption, you can drop it and you can run sanguinary burst. It's not that big of a deal. It's not going to do that much for you. It's not that much more difficult. It's just personal preference, right? So, with that being said, we really didn't lose a whole lot. Our defensives got a little bit more straightforward, but all right, so let's get into the rotation for the Blood DK. But like we did lose both our Bone Storm and Tombstone for Dancing Rune Weapon. All right, so basically what that means for us is we're not really getting as much cooldown. So on pull, we have a couple of different options. If you feel like you need to precast, you can use your Icebound Fortitude. But at the same time, like if you know that you can live your gather. All right. So for AoE, very first thing is we're going to drop down our Death and Decay immediately into Blood Boil. Now let's use our consumption, get that out. And then we're just going to be building armor, use Dancing Rune Weapon, right? We're going into our Vampiric Strikes. We're going to Death Strike for health, keep uptime on our Death and Decay. If the mobs kind of get out of control a little bit, then we can use our Raised Dead, big pulls or single target pulls, stuff like that. All right. But yeah, that's pretty much what we're looking at when it comes to our AoE rotation. There's only one difference between AoE and single target, and the difference is your raised dead. In single target, you're always going to have raised dead on cooldown. You want to make sure that your ghoul is up every time. Other than that, that is the only difference between the two. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope it got everything. Um, Big thing that note to change is we're doing a lot with our dancing rune weapon, and we're still going to be just as conservative with our defensives. If you don't need it, don't use it. If you can death strike through it, you don't need a defensive. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you on the next one.